We are back again on another Wednesday episode of Swedgelock Southeast Texas Talks. I'm your host, Buster Caballero. This is a live webcast about your applications, tech tips, engineering, innovative solutions, all about your industry. We are from Swedgelock Southeast Texas here in the Houston area. And if you are familiar with what our capabilities are, you are going to learn a lot more today. Logan, who do we have? Welcome. Good to see you again, buddy. Welcome. Who do we have on the guest show today?
Yeah, so today we have Nathan Perkins, and Nathan is our on-site field services advisor. So we're going to have him on today. We're going to ask him some questions. He's going to tell us some of his best practices about quantifying leaks, reducing emissions, and increasing your safety and lowering your costs. So welcome, Nathan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Man, good to see you again. So I want to get one thing out of the way this morning for you, Nathan, because I've worked with you for 8 years. And Logan, I don't know if you'd experienced this, but on a call one time at a customer, I introduced Nathan and then he says, call me Nate. So what are we calling you today? Nathan, Nate?
Whatever. Nathan, Nate. It's all the same, right?
Nate Dog. Yeah. So, Nathan, thanks for joining us. Tell us about yourself. You know, how long have you been with Swedgelock? What's your experience? Basically, your superhero origin story.
Nice. So I've been with the company for 13 years now. I actually was hired in the warehouse / integrated services. That's when Swedgelock was trying to start the custom solutions. So I came in on that. I was in custom solutions for like 8+ years, and then just in the last year or so kind of went full-time role into the field service advisor position.
Awesome. So field services, Nathan, what is it?
Yes. So there's multiple programs that are tied with the field services. Some of them is on-site commissioning. We do come out, we're on site with the customer to oversee installation, any issues that could arise. Basically to be the eyes and ears and make sure everything goes smoothly. The other one is Hos Advisory. We come out, same thing as we can do mapping, do inspection on hoses, visual inspections on hoses, make recommendations. We have compressed gas leak detection, and that's looking for leaks out in the plant. Energy emissions is a big concern out there in the facilities, and we can come out and look for leaks and save the customer a lot of time and money. And one of the newest ones is the on-site orbital welding consulting, where same thing, we're on site during a project, orbital welding, and we help with purging and best practices out in the field.
All right, well, that's awesome. So you talked about Hos Advisory Services is one of the things that you mentioned. Can you tell us more about that? Unpack that one a little bit for us, Nathan?
Yeah. So Hos Advisory. So we have a tablet that goes along with it, an OIS tablet, and we've been using that lately with this. And we can go out into the field. A lot of customers have a preventative maintenance program typically, and but they might need their hoses to be located all throughout the plant. So we can take a picture, put the description in there, prints out a full report, and then put a bomb in there if anything needs to be replaced or if we have any concerns with the application.
That's great. So when you go out on site, you mentioned a tablet. Can you tell us a little bit more about the tablet and what its capabilities are?
Yeah, so the tablet has a little bit of everything to it. So it actually collects all the data from part description to location in a facility. You can tag it with a picture or GPS. There's a ton of different fields that you can fill out just depending on what we're being brought out there to do.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I'm sure we could talk about that one for quite a while, but we're going to move on so we touch on all of these. Compressed gas leak detection, Nathan, how do we do that? What kind of tools do you use to do that? And how's that different from just a energy survey like we've been doing for years?
Okay. So well, let's start with the energy survey. So the energy survey, typically we used to come out there with just Snoop and we would spray fittings, look for the leaks, write it down. It was a 1/2 inch, tube fitting compression in, large leak, small leak. And basically it was just showing the difference between our product and competitor products, right? So it gave us a lot of data for the factory to come back just to show, the quality that Swagelok is. So with the compressed leak detection, now we still use Snoop, but we also use an ultrasonic gun. So it picks up the turbulence from a leak, and then we can quantify that leak. So by quantifying it, we can actually tell you what that leak is costing you on an annual basis.
That's awesome. So after you do one of these, do you come out with a report that's able to tell you all these things?
Correct. So that's when we use the tablet also. And so it also prints out a BOM. So if you need to do any replacement of valves, or if you're trying to put together a scope for one of your contractors to come out and service where all these leaks are. So we tag it with a picture also. And what we can actually categorize them off of like an urgent fix down to something that, it's a small leak that you could take care of later. So that way you can have a bigger return on it instantly.
Well, that's okay. So the way you do this, you mentioned ultrasonic gun. Can you tell us a little bit more about that tool and how it's able to quantify these leaks?
Right. So it works off of decibels, right? So when there's a leak, when there's a line under pressure and there's a leak, you have air or gas that's coming out, right? So it makes a high pitched noise. So this gun can single it out, and then we can pick up the decimal readings, and then we convert that into figuring out the PSI off of the inlet. And then with the decibels, then we can come out with what that leak is actually costing that facility.
And how much of a range does this ultrasonic gun have? How far away can it pick up?
Oh man, it depends on the leak, right? So one time we pulled up to a facility and we were out there for a couple of days. We're in a small unit, and when I pulled the gun out, I kind of tuned it in before I get started, and so I got headphones on and I got the gun on my hip and pulling the trigger, and I picked up turbulence, like a noise right away, and it was loud. So didn't know what was going on, trying to figure it out. So I just kind of like started walking through the field in this unit to figure out what this noise was. So we were probably 75 foot, 100 foot away on a second story, and we found a huge leak up there, and it was actually a gauge that was blown out, and it was just on a 1/2 inch line just dumping out nitrogen. So you can pick it up pretty far depending on how much pressure is in the line. So typically they range from 5 decibels is usually the smallest leak that we can pick up with this, and then it goes up from there.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. We were experiencing a little bit of technical glitch in the background, as well as screaming kids. So yeah, sorry about that, fellas. The joys of working from home in this new environment, right?
Yeah.
So when you have the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old, and the 7-year-old. So Nathan, you touched on a lot of the subjects already on here. The gun, the Hos Advisory. Everything that you're doing right now, are these services just like a standard item that you're doing? Like when you come out for a hose audit, for example, do you have a procedure that you follow and we do this, don't do this, don't do this, and for the compressed gas or any one of those? How does that work in the field for the customers?
So yeah, so we kind of stopped doing just the basics. So we offer a basic, right? But we've learned that all these facilities operate completely different. So we custom tailor it around what you're looking for that's tied with, say, your preventive maintenance program. So one of our customers wanted us to come out and a brand new facility, they just built this they're not even live yet. And they wanted part of their preventive maintenance program was to change out their hoses every couple of years, right? Depending on if they're a process hose or just an air hose. And so they told us up front, they were like, look, this should only take a couple of days. We have about 120 hoses, 122 hoses in the facility. And so we started with that. But then when we get into the field, we ended up finding like almost 700 hoses.
Whoa.
Because a lot of these process hoses that are coming into these plants are on equipment already or being tied so they don't show off of P&IDs. So they based everything off of the P&IDs for that plant. And turns out that was only like less than a quarter of what they were going to be wanting to survey out there. So we went out there, like I said, it's a total of like 700 hoses from 1/4 inch up to 2 inch. And we mapped every one of them. We actually GPSed them also. And then created this full report, put it in a package like a book. So that way they could always reference it. So if they need to go out to a certain piece of equipment and change out that hose before they had to go out there into the field and take measurements and all that, they could actually just reference the book, order the hose in, and then make one trip out into the field to have it fixed.
So Nathan, with that, it's not just though identifying, oh, here's where a hose is. You're also taking a look at, is it installed correctly? Is it the proper hose for that application? Is that, is it installed correctly, right size, all this Teflon versus metal, right?
Yep. Right. So we make a ton of recommendations also while we're out there. Not just on the hose. We kind of take the scope a little bit farther. And if we see any safety concerns, we like to bring that up also. Tripping hazards, or if we think something needs to be supported better, or interchanged fittings, or if we, like you said, on the hoses, if you have the wrong hose in that application, we like to work with with the engineers and make sure that it's corrected before it goes back into the field.
Nice, man. We do have some questions coming in. We are going to get to the questions at the end of the show. Got a really good one right here from one of our viewers. So guys, if y'all do have questions right now, you're tuned in, go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and then we'll get to those at the end of the show. So.
All right, Nathan, we've talked about Hos Advisory Services and everything that's involved with that. And I'm sure we'll have some questions on some specifics of those things. And we've talked about compressed gas leak detection. You mentioned some other things that you do on site. What are some of these other things? And can you tell us a little bit more about those?
So on-site commissioning is just having somebody on site when they go to install a piece of equipment, something that's built out of our assembly solutions department, or a panel. That way that we can troubleshoot, we can actually train on site how to operate it. Say it's a grab sample panel, conditioning panel, anything like that. And we're just on site to make sure everything's installed properly, that, they're following the Swagelok specs on how to properly make up the fitting, how to tie it in. And that way, if there's anything that pops up, it can be addressed immediately. So while I'm there, I'm also backed by our engineering department. So I have, Trey, Brandon, Vitor on call at any time. So if we end up running into an issue, they could come out, or they can help me troubleshoot over the phone. So just having that extra backing, that support, to be on site to help the customer out.
One time, Nathan, we had put together, an assembly in our assembly solutions group, and you'd gone out to the customer because they weren't comfortable actually getting it installed using our, benchtop bender and some other tools. How did that work out?
Oh, well, it's weird that you brought that one up. It worked out good. So, I mean, just to be on site, because of my background of working in custom solutions, and I'm real familiar with all the tools and equipment, and I've run the tubing, and a lot of these guys per se, they're not as trained on, say, the benchtop bender or the electric bender as they are a hand tube bender. So to have me on site also to help with that, to kind of direct them on how to put it in the unit, how to do the correct calculations off of it. You know, they're not using this all the time. So you might be trained on it one time, but then you lose it. So then you get into the field and you're trying to get this installed. So that's another thing is having one of us on site, for that.
So Nathan, we're known for tube fittings. We're known for our regulators, our hoses, all these things. This service side, if it's usually tube fittings, or valves, we get calls from the analyzer group, the I&E group, or the labs, different areas engineer. Who's calling us right now? And I know the answer, and Logan knows the answer. But for those watching, who are you working with in what areas of facilities with these services? Is it just one in particular, or?
No, it's a wide range, right? Exactly what you're saying, though. It's the I&E, maintenance, the contractors that are out there, the engineering. We've been called out on site because they're adding on a piece of equipment, or they're adding on or updating a unit, and they want to make some modifications. So they ask us to come out and do some recommendations, especially on on hoses. But it's the same phone calls you're probably getting all the time, right? It's the core I&E, the maintenance shop, and the engineering departments in these facilities.
Mechanical and reliability, and it's not just plants per se, right?
Correct. So I say plants. We do a lot of work with the plants because there's a lot of plants in our territory. But I've worked with the OEM side. Whenever they're speccing out or they're about to create, a piece of equipment that's going out into a field someplace per se, and they want some help on hose lengths or bend radius or flow, any of that with hoses. I've been on site on the beginning end of that, right? We've also, helped out in labs. A lot of our labs are research labs, looking for leaks, or, hoses also in that one.
So Nathan, when we're talking about these services, and you've kind of hit on this already, but are these services standard that you can pick from a menu, or do we tailor these to the specific customer needs?
So, well, it's kind of like when you go out to a restaurant, right? I mean, there's a menu, but then you always want to have it your way. So you cut the lettuce and cut the onion. So it's the same thing. So I mean, we have a basic menu, and then we custom tailor it, to fit the customer. So if they want us to help with the preventative maintenance program, we can help write that or work alongside with them.
And it's good you said that. Write a preventative maintenance program is just for example on the hose procedures. The hoses have become a hot ticket item in the field because they're everywhere. But very few facilities actually have a hose maintenance program, or they have one, but it really could use some updating, some upgrading. Things have changed. How has our services right now impacted our customers in that way?
So majority of the facilities we deal with, they have a preventative maintenance program, but it's old, right? So this is back before customers even cared about hoses. We would run hoses, they would run hoses until they failed. And then once they failed, they would just change them out and put the exact same hose back in until it failed again. So, and that's one of the things that we would come out for. And, we want to troubleshoot why that hose is failing. A hose shouldn't fail. So we try to troubleshoot that. And like I said, then, there's a lot of preventative maintenance that goes with it. That's the point of it, right? And that's making sure that you're not having hose failures, because hose failures lead to down equipment, production costs, and possibly even injuries. So, to be out there on the front end of that to help the customers, identify and train them on these issues, so that way they can see it when they do their, inspections. Or we can come do the inspections, either one. So we've got customers that's got us on, to come out and annually to inspect their hoses, just to have an extra set of eyes that are coming out there. You get displacement when you're out there in these facilities and you're looking at the same thing over and over and over again. So have that extra set of eyes to come out there and make the recommendations or identify a safety or a hazard, is it's pretty big value for our customers.
Nathan, what's the biggest value? What's the biggest impact that a customer receives from our field services, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's the ease, right? So I think that I feel like personally, a lot of these facilities, these plants, our customers, the turnover rate, a lot of these younger engineers that are coming in or these younger employees, they don't have that background yet, that per se we have because we've been in this for a long time. So the younger engineers, I work with them a lot because they don't know. So it's a lot easier for me to be on site to work with them on that and help them and direct them, and answer their questions. It's a younger generation out there. I feel like I'm not that old, but I've seen it. I've worked on a project and I was in the field for several months. And in that several months, I worked with 5 or 6 different engineers because they were turning over so quickly or they were moving to different departments. So I think we bring a lot of added value, to that. So did I answer that question? I know I kind of.
No, that's perfect. And you're right. The flat bill keeps you looking young, man. So.
Yeah.
That's that swage lock. I had to represent that swage lock.
I like it, man. I like it a lot. So
well, I guess we can go ahead and hit up Q&A.
Logan, before we do that, you mentioned something, Nathan, and I want to ask this one question for you. You mentioned the menu and then wanting to order it a certain way. Now, one of the things I like to do if I'm going to go out to a very nice restaurant, there's always the one question I like to ask is, what's off the menu?
Yeah. So
have you had any requests for something maybe off of our menu?
Oh man.
That a customer has asked us to do, and then you were able to figure it out and do it? Because I know we're pretty flexible. We're able to pivot on our jobs real quick. Has anything like that happen?
Well, yes, and that's kind of like where the on-site weld consulting came from. So we didn't know there was such a big need for that. But like I said, with my background, I've done 90% of the welding for our location. I do the training for it. So, and over the years, I've worked with so many customers, just taking those phone calls and trying to help them troubleshoot issues with, on-site welding. So we're not actually doing the welding, but I can be on site to troubleshoot anything that arises. And, it happens, you have a lot of purge issues. Those fittings get expensive, especially some of those welded valves. So you burn up a valve, that's, $400 or, an $80 T. So just to be on site, with that. So, and then, we always get strange requests. I think that's just normal. I just can't think of anything like on the spot right here besides the older one.
Threw that one for a loop. So Logan, take us into the Q&A time.
All right. So before we get into Q&A, I guess we could talk a long time about any one of these things that Nathan has discussed today. We could probably have a full show on hose advisory or compressed gas leak detection.
We will have a show on a full show on hose advisory.
If there's anything that you guys that are listening would like for us to do one of these on, let us know and we'll make that a priority. But getting into the Q&A, Nathan, we had a question. I'm going to click answer a little here on the ultrasonic leak detection gun, and that question is: can you find vacuum leaks, and if so, to what level of vacuum?
Man, of course, yeah. The answer or the question I can't answer. So yes, you can use it to find vacuum leaks. I have not used it for vacuum leaks. That was part of the training that I went through, and to put an actual ratio range on that, I just can't. I don't know how to answer that. So that's a good question. Maybe we send something to that guy, whoever asked that.
Maybe we need to set up maybe we need to set up an on-site consultation with that one. We'll reach out to you, sir, and see what's the application y'all are working on right now. Because now we're intrigued. This is what we like, intriguing questions.
Yes, that was a great question.
Yeah.
All right, another one here.
Ooh.
What's the biggest cost savings that you've come across while helping a customer?
Oh man. Well, some of it you can't put a value on, right? Especially like safety. But on the compressed gas leak detection, one of our customers called out, and we only did half their plant, their facility, and all they were doing basically was trying to check a box, and they had us come out. So we went through, and we ended up finding like 700-800 leaks, and a lot of those leaks were pretty small. I mean, it's typical to have leaks in a plant, right? So I mean, you run into it. Not saying that it's okay or it's good, but a lot of these leaks were hydrogen and helium leaks, so it's an added cost. Helium's expensive, and then hydrogen's more of a concern. So total, that one came out to over $350,000 in an annual saving of what they were spending on gas alone. So
That's pretty awesome.
Who's getting their lawn cut today? Is that you, Logan?
No, it's
So Nathan, to go into a lot of these facilities, we have to have certain credentials.
Yeah.
How does that work for you? Like making sure you have you got to have your proper ID, but TWIC, Basic
Yeah.
Plus.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the common, right? The TWIC, the Basic Plus, the site specific. But to go along with like the Hos Advisory, so I'm a hose advisor. I've been trained by Swagelok Factory on hoses to be able to make recommendations. So that is a training class that I've taken up there. It's a week-long training class just for hoses. On the gas leak detection, I've taken 2 different classes on that are 2 weeks, or a week each, to be able to provide this service out there. The orbital welding, ASME Section 9, and hold a lot of different qualifications along with that, and also a level 2 examiner.
nice. You've been around the block.
Been around the block. Yeah, I've done a little bit of all of it, right? 13 years.
There you go.
So, all right, that's all the Q&A we really have. But before we end, Nathan, let's have you give something away.
Oh,
We're gonna give something out for free.
Oh, what? Like some advice?
yeah.
So,
Oh, nice.
what's something
That
that
hat.
people that are listening to us right now, some piece of information that you can give people so when they're out in the field that they can use, say, for hoses? Like what's a best practice for hoses that people can use?
Well, yeah. So using the right hose for the application, right? We run into this a lot. I would say nearly every single time I've been into a plant, we find the wrong hose in an application. So on compressed gas, helium, hydrogen, anything with the smaller molecules, right? These hoses permeate. So, and the longer they're in the field, the more they're going to permeate, right? If they're deadheaded and they're just holding pressure on them. So I always say that if it's a compressed gas, you should have a metal core hose on there to stop that permeation. So it's just a waste, right? It's a waste of gas.
Oh. Well, thanks, Lou. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody watching right now appreciates that also. So we're running up against our time limit right now. Our producer behind the scenes is telling us it's a time to wrap up. So Logan?
Yeah, so again, Nathan, thanks a lot for coming on. If anybody has any more questions for Nathan, please feel free to email us, reach out to us. We'll put Nathan's info there. Well, it is there on the website, but you know how to reach out to us. We'll talk a little bit about the show next week. Next week, we're going to have Josh Anderson on the show, and he's one of our fellow technical advisors who used to be an operator at one of the plants here locally. So we're going to have him on, talk about plant operations a bit and how he was able to use that experience to come in and help develop a solution for steam lances, which is something that we hadn't really gotten into before. So please tune in next week and every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And if you've got something you'd like us to talk about, let us know. We will do it.
Nathan, again, thanks for joining us on our show here. Really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're busy right now, so we're going to let you get back in the field. For all of you watching, if you have any questions, you can find us at sset.swagelog.com. On there, you'll find the past episodes from this show. You'll also find a list of our services, such as that Nathan talked about today, and a lot more of our applications. You could also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, where we share a lot of our technical information. And of course, on Facebook and Instagram, usually you can find a good little story of something happened on around there and some posts. Go ahead, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. This is going to be a show for y'all. We actually, we're doing this for free right now. So if you can, please share with your friends, share with a colleague, somebody you feel might get some information from this. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, just stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all next Wednesday. Guys, have a great day.
See you next week.
See y'all later. Bye.